teď bych poprosil pana Matěje Koruše, ať se ujme slova.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank our friends at Association for Applied Research in IT for the invitation, and all of the organizers and partners of tonight's great event for having us here. Secondly, I would like to apologize. I've only studied the Czech language for one semester back at the university, and I was pretty bad at it, so I'll stick to English tonight. And thirdly, as it was mentioned, I would like to present the ICT sector in the Central Eastern European countries as a regional driver of growth report. And if I may please ask for the next slide, I would like to begin by very briefly introducing you to the coalition. We are a gathering, an informal one, of 19 digital industry and advanced technology organizations from Central and Eastern Europe, from 12 countries of this region, and we are mostly working together as closely as possible to promote even closer business and policy-making cooperation in the region in order to allow a rapid, safe development of digital economy and the ICT sector in our region, which is, first of all, aligned with the best interest of our region. If I may please have the next slide, I would like to jump into that data and the findings of the report itself. I feel like it goes without saying at this point, and it has been shown plenty of times in various research, that at this point, the more digital an economy gets and the stronger its ICT sector becomes, the more robust it is, the more resilient it is, and there is no doubt about the significance of that. Now, while the Digital Economy and Society Index by the European Commission may not show that very well, because most of our countries are below the EU average in that index, our digital economy and ICT sector are actually doing pretty good. Over the last couple of years, we've made huge progress, and not only have we caught up with some of the Western partners, Western countries, we have actually exceeded their performance in a couple of fields. Most notably, the share of employment in the ICT sector in our region is currently at nearly 5%, so we are kind of ahead. But even more notably, the number of enterprises in the ICT sector per 1,000 inhabitants in Central and Eastern Europe is more than twice that of what the Western Europe has to show. We are also catching up in terms of the share of ICT value added in total economical value added, with 5.7% in our region compared to a little bit over 6.3% in Western Europe. Now, I would like to talk about what got us to this point, which is probably stronger than many of us would think. If I could please have the next slide. The factors that made it possible and that will keep on making it possible if we keep them in mind. There's many of them. I would like to draw your attention to one that Director General at Digital Europe, Cecilia Bonafendal, mentioned in her recorded speech earlier, the R&D expenditure. Actually, Czechia is a good example of that. What made the growth of digital economy and ICT sector possible in Czechia was just that, the expenditure on R&D, which is among the highest in our region. Another thing that is probably a little bit better to show the actual growth, if you compare it over the past just over a decade, is the share of ICT infrastructure stocks in the economy. Again, Czechia is up there with the very leaders of our region, and these are some of the factors that made it possible. However, moving forward, we will have to overcome a couple of challenges and keep a couple of things in mind. If I could please have the next slide. I would like to talk about what do we need in order to keep up the pace, or best pick it up even, and to make sure that the digital economy keeps on growing and the ICT sector keeps on growing to make the entire economy more robust and resilient. There are, again, a whole set of factors that we need to keep in mind, but I would like to focus on two of them, namely the shortage of skilled ICT specialists. While Czechia is up there with Estonia and seemingly is doing pretty good in that department, my country, Poland, we are doing pretty bad. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when the Polish Economic Institute said that we need around 150,000 ICT specialists just to meet the demand in the market, let alone actually capture all of the opportunities that a strong ICT sector provides. This is true for many countries in the region, and will definitely be one of the factors that will determine if we can keep up the pace. I already said that my Czech is not that good, but I'm pretty sure that the regulatory tsunami was mentioned in the first panel, and I happen to have a graph showing just that. This is the number of EU legislation in the digital sector over the years, and the last couple of bars, as you can see, are way higher. Now, to address this thing and to make sure that these legislation answers to the best interests of our region and allows it to actually grow its ICT sector and grow its digital economy, the number one thing for us will be closer cooperation between all of CEE countries. We need to establish common priorities, we need to align our work on that legislation, and we need to make sure that our activity, our approach to that is coordinated. If I could please have the next slide. I would like to talk about a couple of fields, technologies, trends that, when developing the report, we identified as the catalysts, as the key areas that we should be focusing on, both when developing these regulations and investing, that will make the growth possible. And one of these is cybersecurity. It is no secret at this point that the scale of cyber attacks, the scale of cyber threats, the number of incidents has never been higher than today, and it's probably not going to drop anytime soon. Now, this is clearly well recognized by both the public authorities, who made cybersecurity throughout the region one of the top priorities, but it is also well recognized by the business. The CEOs of companies in Central and Eastern Europe rank cyber risks among the very top threats that they will keep in mind over the next year. It's just behind the inflation, geopolitical conflict, macroeconomic volatility. So it's up there with the very, very top risks and threats identified by the business and by the public authorities. So while this sounds not that good, there is a silver lining, because more threats mean more demand for security. And this demand is an opportunity for the very innovative and very particularly well-recognized globally cybersecurity sector in our region to capture this opportunity, to answer to these challenges, and to create solutions locally for the region and expand regionally and hopefully globally. So cybersecurity will prove to be one of the key areas that we have to keep on our efforts and attention very close to. If I could please have the next slide. Probably with no surprise to anyone in the room, another field that we'll have to really focus on is artificial intelligence. And while I'm not a fan of estimates and predictions and any sort of prognosis for artificial intelligence, because with the rate it's progressing, it's hard to estimate anything, I think. I would just like to highlight that there is a lot of hope in terms of productivity in even a quite short term. By 2035, it is assumed to potentially, with the right support, increase the productivity in Europe by up to 37%. And again, this is well recognized by the business. The study among CEOs of Central Eastern European and global companies show that most CEOs actually expect artificial intelligence to increase the efficiencies in both their teams, among their employees, as well as their own, as well as their revenue, profitability. There is a lot of hope, basically speaking. But then again, in order to fully capture this potential, local actors, public authorities, NGOs, businesses, basically everyone involved on board will have to work closely throughout the region in order to capture this possibility, capture the opportunities at hand, and make the best use of AI for the growth of our digital economy. Now, moving on to the next slide, I would just like very briefly talk about cloud, which, again, Czechia is a special case, given the very steep increase in numbers of enterprises that purchase cloud infrastructure software. Just over under a decade, a growth of 32.1% is sight to behold, definitely. So cloud is another thing to keep an eye out for. I'm running out of time, so I would please ask for the next slide. And just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what else you could find in the report, and hopefully fuel the discussion that is going to take place any minute now, I would like to highlight that Czechia, for example, is the very first country in the region in terms of SMEs with at least basic level of digital intensity without financial sector. It also excels in the ICT sector productivity, which is, I think, one of the highest ratings in the report as well. And just to give you a highlight of what else can be found in the report, chronological data, more numbers, definitely Czechia pops up much more, not always in the very first 3 positions. There are also a couple of indexes that you guys are a little bit behind on, so you could take a look at that as well. And to close it off, if I could have the very last slide, you can download the report under this QR code. There are also a couple of physical copies next to the catering table on my right, your left-hand side. And one last thing, CEE Digital Coalition, every single year, we are gathering both our members and all of the stakeholders involved in all things digital once a year during CEE Digital Summit in Warsaw. And this year, we'll be gathering on October 10th, and you are all invited. Keep an eye out for that. And that's it from me. Thank you so much, and have a good discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Korus, for your presentation.